Grapes are so fucking good. Getting it. Getting after it. Philadelphia. Good morning, everybody. I wanted to show you guys something. You see that bridge right there? Let's get a little zoom action. Yeah. See that bridge right there? Well, I got a little story to tell you about that bridge. So up until 2019, I spent almost 5 years homeless. And even when I was homeless, I was over 250 pounds. I want you to imagine a 250-pound crackhead, the type of eating that you have to do to sustain being obese when you're essentially doing a dry fast for 2 days, not eating, not sleeping, not even getting fluids in. I used to do things like find food pantries and soup kitchens that were giving out food, and if they had things like whole donated loaves of Panera bread, I would literally take the whole loaf, and I would steal ketchup packets from places like Wawa and gas stations and hot sauce, and I would just eat like literally ketchup sandwiches. I knew like all the spots to get a free meal and to like stock up and have snacks in my backpack. And so I'm saying all this because I want you to know that not everybody that is finding some relief in this high carb diet, in the sugar fasting, is someone who is currently, dealing with just weight loss, just obesity, just being overweight. Like there's other things going on, which is like for myself, I've already lost a ton of weight. But how do I go forward with my life being able to like eat enough food, feel good when I'm eating because I'm getting micronutrition and I'm getting energy because I'm having like an abundance of carbohydrates? Man, it's been a wild journey. Like honestly, let me back up a little bit. So 2 weeks ago, I was down to 193. I had only been doing the sugar fast for 1 week. It wasn't even a full 5 days. It was like 2 days on, 1 day eating, 2 days on, 1 day eating. And I went from 198 to 193 rapidly. That week, I was like, I don't need caffeine, at least not in the capacity that I was using it before. Like I can still have some and I can still like play with it. Like if there's a day where like I want to go hard at the gym, or like a weekend when I need like a second kick in the ass in midday because we got some driving or adventuring to do, let's get it in, let's have some caffeine. But I didn't need that daily shot in the ass, right? And I found myself at the gym crushing it without caffeine, and that same day I was like, I'm done taking my pro hormone that I was taking, because I just this year I already came from a place of losing like 33 pounds, I think it was, over the course of 16 weeks. And in that 16 weeks, I absolutely decimated myself. I was working like 50 hours a week, hitting the gym for like, 5 to 6 days a week. I was attending my men's group, singing in the choir at church, taking side jobs, doing things around the house, showing up for my family, doing all this stuff while every week dropping the calories 100 at a time, 150 at a time, 200 at a time, using the scale as a feedback. I found myself eating, by the end of it, 1,300 calories, unable to maintain the weight loss. Like the lowest I got to the week of Easter was 186. I finished that week with a 72-hour wet fast where I was just having fluids, and I get on the scale the last day of the cut and I'm 188. I'm up 2 pounds. And of course, it's like it could be water weight. That's not what you want to see when you're doing a fast, is that you're heavier at the end of it. And I'd even gone to a sauna the night before and like really milked all of the sweating I could possibly do. And thus began my journey of reverse dieting, slowly increasing my calories. And I started getting fat as shit again. It's like I went from What 188 up to 205 or over the course of like the next 2.5 weeks. And I was just at a loss. I didn't know what to do. And I've told this story a few times. I started hopping onto the sugar fasting and instantly found myself better in every way. Performed at the gym, inspired to run again, inspired to throw more weights on, motivated, beyond just the discipline that I've had for these 4 years, but motivated, inspired. Like, that's a whole different feeling. So I said, I don't need fucking caffeine. I don't need these pro hormones. I don't need anything. Like, let the chips fall where they may. And they did. You know what I mean? Like, you know what happens when you go from slamming several hundred milligrams of caffeine to zero? You're going to start putting on water weight. I know this firsthand anecdotal evidence because 2 years ago for Lent, I gave up all caffeine for those 40 days. It kicked the shit out of me then. It kicked the shit out of me now. And I just started packing on the weight and stopped peeing after that. I also didn't account for the fact that fucking around with my hormones was going to have consequences with that same issue. And I stalled out at 198. And once again, I'm just dang, dude, how many times am I going to shoot myself in the ass with trying to get an edge over my eating problems? And it's tough because you need to experiment. You need to try things because it's obviously not going to change on its own. Reality check. It's not going to change on its own. So you got to be willing to try things. And luckily my wife's super supportive. She's a detective, so she's always like, why? Well, why this? Why that? What happens if this? And I'm always like, reckless abandon, and throw it to the wind, And so, yeah, I dove into that, and I gave up basically everything that I was running with, including all the extra stims, and I've talked about that, like total adrenaline junkie things to push you through the day and kill off your appetite. And so last week I said, I'm not even going to try and fight the flow by what am I going to outstarve myself to beat off the waterway? What am I going to dry fast this week, and be even harder on myself? I decided to just last week, whenever I felt like eating, I ate. And if I'm laying on the couch and suddenly the craving was on me, I'm going to the fridge, I'm getting that big bag of dried dates or dried figs, and I'm just munching, man. If I want to have more grapes, I'm going to have more grapes. If I want to have 3 more apples, I'm having 3 more apples. Do I want another cup of juice? I'm going to have another cup of juice. And it was excellent, man. And, obviously I put a little bit of weight on. And I was floating right at 203, 204. And so this week, inspired, feeling good, peeing again. 10 out of 10 experience. I would highly recommend peeing to everyone that's watching this. And going to the bathroom normal again, and just I mean, you probably can tell my mood is a little bit up right now. I feel great. I feel excellent. And this week, I started the week out with a 72-hour sugar fast, and I have been leaning more into the stronger sugars during the day. And what this means is that from when I wake up until I get home from work, so I get up early, I go to the gym before work, I'm there about 3:30, quarter to 4 at the latest. And before I go, I have 20 ounces of juice. I started the week out with mango nectar, and now I have some kind of orange, pineapple, guava. Costco, killing it with the affordable giant juice tubs. And then while I'm at work, I have a bottle of agave in the raw that I'll just squirt into bottles of water. And that gets me through the day. If I'm genuinely craving that tactile sensation of chewing and eating something and having something arrive in my belly, I found that a soda works really well. Yesterday I had one of the, I forget if they're 16 or 20 ounce bottles, the plastic bottles of vanilla Coke. And it's it's substantial to have one of those sodas. And then when I get home and I'm in the comfort of my house and I want to have further increased relief of the tactile sensation of chewing and eating and having my stomach stretch, that's when I really lean into the fruit. And so what that looked like yesterday and the day before, which I had some footage of, was watermelon, grapes. Then I'll have a second meal, which will be kiwis, apples, and yesterday I had some extra honey before bed and 2 dried figs. And so I started this week at 2:04. It is now whatever day, let's see. It's Wednesday and I'm at 200 flat. Tonight is my feed, my refeed meal. I will have 11 ounces of 93.7 ground beef with 2 slices of cheddar, 2 keto buns, and a boatload of roasted veggies. It'll probably be asparagus. I really love the roasted greens like asparagus and broccoli and Brussels. I'll have a pretty substantial portion of kimchi with that, get all the good probiotics in. And then I'll end my eating with probably, 2-3 apples and 2-3 kiwis. Today I will pull back on the amount of hard-hitting sugar I'll have in the morning, since I'm going to be having pretty substantial food tonight. I don't want to... Let me pause right there. So because we often kind of like are looking to rev up our metabolism, none of us really know what that looks like. Will there be days, and from my experience, there are days when going into a normal meal with mixed macros, you seem to benefit from cranking up the metabolism with sugar to begin with. But it's not always the case, and you can't always rely on it. And quite frankly, you should never rely on the X factor of what's going on under the hood. You don't want to bank on that. You want to bank on, I know if I do this, then this will happen 90% of the time. Because you know from your own experience that it's likely to happen. And then there's some play there, right? Like, should I, because tonight I'll be having a fair amount of salt, should I maybe pull back on the liquids? Assumingly so. Do I want to also pull back on the liquids in the first half of my day while I'm at work? Maybe not a ton, but perhaps, enough. Because if I'm like extremely sodium depleted, going home and then having the sodium, I would chance to guess that the extra liquids that I take in the night along with the extra sodium is going to cause more bloat. So let me play with that. Let me be mindful of that. And then tomorrow, let the scales feedback sort of negotiate what the next meal is going to look like, and that for me will be Saturday. And so Saturday, once again, I'll have to figure out just how much liquid I want to play with and to be mindful of it and to take note of exactly how much I'm consuming, because I want to be progressive with the scale now. I'm incredibly inspired by so many of you guys and the way you guys are cutting weight. And it's amazing. It's amazing. Like, I was watching this video, I want to say it was Monday, of Sugar Fasting Queen, Evelyn. And man, I'm at work, like real work, like walking in hallways, not just like checking AC units on a rooftop. And dude, I'm like fighting back tears because here's this person that's overweight and they're smiling and hopeful, and man, it like took me back, it took me back to like when I felt like I had a fighting chance. And that hope and that optimism and that encouragement, it made me feel the feels, it made me feel very special empathy for this person I don't even know. But I do know, because I've been there. I've been there, man. I got the stretch marks to prove it. I got the extra skin all over to prove it. And it's a beautiful thing to see people feel like they have hope. And this sort of self-respect that comes from when a person decides they're going to do something, does it, and they benefit from it. You build a type of character with that sort of action that can't be bought and it can't be instilled from birth. It's completely different. You know, when you come from living under a bridge, 250 pounds, to getting sober and topping up at 350, and you get down to, you know, 200 flat, and that's where you're struggling with your weight, there's a type of character that comes from that can't be bought. Simple as that. And like, I'm watching so many of you guys build that character, and it's inspiring. You know, it's inspiring. So that's it for today. I'll get some footage of what I'm eating on tonight for tomorrow's video, and I'm gonna try and be mindful today. Have a great Wednesday, everybody. Take care.